Hey everyone, I hope you're good. Welcome to the video. So this video is going to be quite divisive. I'm going to have a lot of old school fans watching, a lot of new school fans watching. So before we get into it, I want to just state a few things to make sure everyone's clear and we're all on the same page. While I do not hate the new reboot style, I expected it to go back to the OG style. So I was in the middle, really. I don't mind the new style of the reboot. I think it'll be fun and I think it'll be a great game. But I myself did expect it to go back to its roots. I prefer Saints Row 2 over 3, but love them both. So, I'm kind of in the middle here, okay? So, what I want to also just make clear by saying that is, whoever you are, whether you're a new school fan or an old school fan, whether you like the new style, hate the new style, love the reboot, hate the reboot, you are going to hopefully get some enjoyment out of the video and you're not going to be attacked in any way for what you like, okay? I'm going to be very fair to both sides because both sides do have a good point. And I'm just going to discuss why Saints Row probably isn't going to go back to what it was and why it did what it did, and just kind of go into basically the reboot's new style and explain why. So, as my subscribers, as my viewers, I want you to know that if you're an OG fan, you're not going to be attacked for that, because I know there's a lot of OG hate at the moment, because a lot of toxic members in the OG community are pretty mad. But if you prefer 2 to 3, that's fine, okay? You're going to be completely fine here. Same with new school. I know a lot of people are attacking new school fans, and attacking people who like the reboot. And again, that's not my job. I'm here to just deliver the video to you. So, yeah, no attacks will be going on, basically, and you'll hopefully enjoy the video. So, let's get into it. So, what I think is important to take into consideration is what Jim Boone said. Jim Boone said the older games were products of their time. And actually, I kind of agree with that, because, let's be honest, Saints Row 3 and 4 are very different to 2 and 1, and 2 and 1's era was very different to 3 and 4's era, really. A lot changed in that time. A lot of stuff that was acceptable back then isn't acceptable now. For better or for worse, that's just how it is, and things change. But I don't think that's the full reason. I think there's a bit more to it than that, because let's be honest, no other game has really done this the way Saints Row has. I mean, if you look at games like GTA, for example, and I know no one likes the comparisons, but we're not comparing styles of game here, just the tone. Look at San Andreas versus GTA 5. I mean, the tone's the exact same. It's the exact same sort of vibe. And they've had no backlash, really. So I don't think it's just that they were products of their time. I think there's a lot more to it, and I think that's what we're going to need to discuss a bit more here. So, let's go. So, one thing I've learnt with Volition is I don't think they like to stick to one thing. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but it is when you're trying to make a series and a franchise out of something. Volition seems to love to switch it up on us. I mean, you had Saints Row 1, which was a purely full, gritty gang game, okay? Not much like humour to it. I mean, there was a bit, obviously, but it was purely just gang shit. And then Saints Row 2 turned up the humour, turned up the wacky, turned up the epicness, and made it a little less believable, but it managed to make a great game. Saints Row 3 just did that again. It made it a little less gangster, turned up the wacky, turned up the fun, and I think it made it a bit of a worse game. Less because of the tone, more because of the features cut, but it was all still played into its part. And then Saints Row 4 just did it again, got rid of the gangster, turned up the wacky. And I think by this, it just shows that Volition doesn't like sticking to one thing. And that's fine, like I said, if you want to make different games. But, as you can see with Agents of Mayhem, for example, it really just seems like they like to switch it up every time. And they don't like to let one tone or one vibe of a game, crowd their creative freedom. And I think that's a good thing in some aspects. But I do think maybe for Saints Row, it's led a lot of fans to just being upset. So, you know, it's kind of like... It's a double-edged sword, because you want them to be able to make the game they want to make, because if they are making a game they want to make, it will be a better game. But at the same time, a lot of OG fans are feeling a bit left in the dust. And that kind of sucks. So it's quite a mixed thing here. And like I said, it's a double-edged sword. You have to look at it from both perspectives. And both perspectives are pretty not fun, really. So I think the fact that they don't like sticking to one thing definitely has something to do with it. One thing not a lot of people are taking into consideration is fanbase. Volition has 2 fan bases here. 2 entirely different ones. You have new school and old school. Obviously, we know that. But no matter what, one of them was going to be upset at the end of the day, and there would have been backlash no matter what. It's a tricky thing to look at, really. Because you could say, oh, well, the old school fans were here first, they should get the game they deserve. But then you've just left all these newer fans you've spent the last 2 games building up. It's like, to them, in Volition's mind, you gotta understand, it looks like, do we stick with the old people when some of them have sat there slandering all of our newer games and left us? Or do we go with the newer fan base that has stuck by us for the past 2 games? It's tricky because from our perspective, it's like, well, obviously the older one because, we sat there and we've stuck through these games. But from their perspective, a lot of people have just been trashing the new games for not being as good as the old ones. So why would you sit there and support a community that has abandoned your newer games? It's tricky, like I said, and I think it's quite a hard problem to solve. But I also feel that with this game, Volition has met us in the middle to a certain degree. I mean, it sure as hell looks more gangster than 4, and I'm gonna go like on a limb here and say it looks more gangster than 3. So to me, a mix between 3 and 2 seems like the fairest balance they could have pulled. With 2 fan bases, they've wanted to try and merge them a little with this game, and I think what that has done has had the shock impact on both sides. But as the game slowly gets more information, these communities are going to merge together to go, well, that game was at least decent, and if both communities can get at least a semi-decent game, I feel like they'll be a lot closer and a lot more happy for the next game to come out if it's in a similar vein, instead of them releasing a brand new game for one style instead of the other, and everyone being upset in one part of the community compared to the other one being really happy. So with this game, it feels like it's a bit of a merge game to get those 2 communities together, so that if they release another game in this same vein, both of them will be like, okay, well, that's good. It's not the best thing in the world. I'd prefer the gangster one, or I'd prefer a more new school one, but at least we get a semi-decent game. And in a way, just try and incorporate both fan bases into thinking, okay, well, at least this style of game is decent. At least we can enjoy this game, no matter old school or new school. And they've said this themselves. They said there's something for everyone. And I actually feel like that could be the case here. So, like I said, it feels like they've tried to get the old school fans to at least semi-like this game, so they can be like, okay, something to look forward to. The new school fans will look forward to it as well. Merge them together, and then when the next sequel comes out, they can look at it and go, yay, we get a new Saints Row, and it'll be kind of like the last one. That's cool. And I feel like that will at least bring the community at least partially together. I mean, there's some people on both sides that will never move on from the older games. Whether it be people will never move on from 3, people that will never move on from 2. But I feel like if they can do this sort of merge, a lot of the community might just be okay with the new game, and that okay will be great if the game turns out to be amazing. Because if the game turns out to be amazing and both communities are willing to give it a shot, they could have a sequel, or, even more of a franchise down the future that will make everybody happy. Another way to look at it is, as a developer, you want to be in full control of the thing you're creating, and having 2 split fan bases be upset no matter what you do can be tricky. I mean, imagine being, like, someone in a creative position, and no matter what you do, 50% of the people that see what you create are going to trash it. Now, I'm sure the split's different with new school to old school, but I'm going to go 50-50 just to keep it clear. It must be hard. And I think that alongside wanting to please everyone, they also deserve the right to make the game they want to make. And I think it's very tricky again. I think it's quite a tricky situation for everyone. And I think they're not being let a lot of leeway. A lot of people really just will not get over the fact it's not Saints Row 2.5. But in a way it is. Like, to me, it looks like Saints Row 2.5. Just, a lot more of the 0.5 than the 2. I'm kidding, but, it does seem a lot more like a mix between 2 and 3. And, like I said before, it does just seem like they're trying to merge both communities together to make one happy community of the new Saints Row, so that in the future they don't have to split the community again. They can just keep making new Saints Row games that will make everyone happy, or the majority happy. And I think that's the good thing. Now, a lot of people will go, well, if they'd have made it gangster, the majority of people would have been happy. Well, yes and no, okay? Again, I think more people would have been happy, myself included. But, like, if it was 100% fully gritty gangster, like Saints Row 1, or maybe, like, 2, I feel a lot of people would have still been upset because, like, they've just abandoned essentially half of their fan base that spent all the time on the last 2 games. Like, you don't really abandon people who spend money on your games in a way. And I feel like a lot of people will say, well, they've abandoned the old fans. But I don't think they have. I think they just moved on with what they wanted to do. And now they're trying to pay tribute with this new game and merge both communities together. And I actually think that's why this might be a good move for them, okay? Hear me out. I think this reboot is a good move, because if they can get a solid foundation, a community of, some old school fans and some new school fans to form the Reboot fans, they will be able to move forward with their games, no matter what, and try not to look too far back. Because there'll be the people that won't move on, which will be a smaller percentage if both communities have a lot of them pleased. So if they can please both communities, merge it into one community, they can carry that single community that has supported all of their games throughout their entire franchise forward and forward and forward with each sequel. And I think that is something we should look forward to. It feels like after this game, they can actually have full creative control and not have to worry about pleasing old school fans and new school fans. And that's why I think they called it a reboot. Because there's no more pleasing the old school fans, because that was from the old Saints Row. This is the new Saints Row. And that means that only the merged communities from the old ones that move forward are entitled to have the game they want now. Because the people who want the games like those ones, that's not what Saints Row is anymore. And I think that's a decent move on their part, and it's something I actually kind of support. So, let me know what you think. I feel like the Volition's attempt to merge communities could work out very well. But we'll just have to wait and see. I feel like it's doing a semi-decent job, because I know a lot of old school fans are actually quite excited for the reboot. You wouldn't think about it from online, because everyone online is, negativity gets attention, positivity gets left in the dust. But if you actually look into it, like on Discord and stuff, you see a decent amount of happy fans. They've got a new Saints Row, and they're looking forward to it on both the old school spectrum and the new school spectrum. And that will hopefully just be able to form a community of people that can label themselves the reboot community, happy about the reboot, and be happy with the fact they get a new game. And that will make making sequels in the future a lot easier, and actually allow Volition to bring the franchise forward instead of having to pander to either the new school or old school. They will now have just the fans. Not the old school, not the new school, that was the old Saints Row. They just have Saints Row fans to look forward to pleasing, and I think that's a good thing. Thank you all for watching. Let me know what you think down below. I think I hit the nail on the head sorta here. And yeah, I'll see you soon, guys.